I'm Dave the Piper. Welcome back to my channel. We're talking about all things bagpipes. Not really meant to teach you how to play the bagpipes, but I will talk in a future video about how to go about doing that. This is more intended to be an instructional series for people who want to simply know more about the bagpipes. In my last video, we discussed the general concept of how a bagpipe works and how the addition of a bag enables continuous airflow through the chanter, which is making the melody, and the various pipes, the drones. So you have continuous sound, as opposed to any instrument where you're blowing directly into it, like a flute or penny whistle recorder, where you have to take breaths and airflow is interrupted, and therefore the sound is interrupted. So in this video and the next few, what I'm going to do now is show you the individual components of a bagpipe. It really applies to any type of bagpipe, but for this part of the video series, I'm going to use my set of Highland pipes. The proper name is called a Great Highland Bagpipe. Great because it's big and has a big sound. To start off this little segment of our videos, we're going to take a look at the bag itself, because the bag is where all the pipes come in and get connected. Let's talk first about the functions of the bag, okay? The main function of the bag is to keep the airflow going when the piper has to draw a breath, okay? I have to draw a breath to live, and when I take my breath, what I do is continue squeezing the bag. So it is essentially an intermediate reservoir of air that I can keep squeezing to keep that airflow going through all the drones and the chanter. And then when I'm finished drawing my breath, my job is to re-inflate that bag, and by doing so, it kind of pushes my arm back out, and so the bag is continually being deflated as I draw a breath and then re-inflated when I blow air back into the bag. Pretty cool system, isn't it? The other really cool function of a bag is that, unlike an instrument, say a clarinet or a low whistle, where you have to blow directly into it, I only get one sound out of this. But now with a bag, I can add one drone, two drones, three drones, even four drones if I want to, and they can all be in different harmonic pitches. So now you can get multiple sounds out of a single instrument instead of blowing directly into it. So, now that we know the function of the bag, what are the characteristics of the bag that we need it to have? The first is proper size. The girth of the bagpipe, when it's inflated, it's like a big balloon, right? And you don't want it to be so large that your arm has difficulty reaching down to the chanter and playing the chanter down here at waist level. So especially for younger pipers who are just getting started, a standard size bag is probably not a good idea. They may need to go to a smaller bag. And the good news is that bags are made in small, medium, and large. Some pipers prefer a large bag because it's a bigger reservoir of air. If the bag is too small, you have to re-inflate it a lot faster because you're squeezing that air out through the pipes. Second characteristic we need for it is a proper shape. And so to show you that, I'm going to go into the other room where my first set of bagpipes that I got when I was a teenager is now mounted on the wall as a decoration. So let's go in there and I'll show you a little bit more about the shape of the bag. This is the first set of bagpipes I ever owned. Got them when I was a teenager. These are R.G. Laurie's, no longer made. Beautiful set of pipes. But talking about the bag here, and I kind of wanted to show you the general shape of it. It's easier hanging on the wall. Basically, you see the blowpipe. This is the bass drone, the two tenor drones. Here's the chanter. We're going to talk about those components in future videos. And you can see the overall shape of the bag. It's basically flat across the top. Starting about here in the back, it's stitched along the bottom, okay, and that stitching comes all the way here to the chanter. And you'll also notice that bagpipe bags for the Highland pipes are generally made with a curve in it up here. We call it a gooseneck, and then they come down and across to achieve the girth that you need. The reason we have that curve there is because we're playing the chanter down, and we don't want this to kink and shut off airflow to that, okay? So now let's go back in the other room and we'll take a look at the bag itself. Okay, the next characteristic that we want for our bag, and it's a crucial one, it has to be airtight, because the air that we're pushing into the bag, whether from our lungs or through a bellows, it's a precious commodity. And the more that's leaking from the bag, that means that we have the less of it going through the reeds, the pipes to make a sound. You're having to work harder to keep the bag reinflated. So by making the bag airtight, we're making sure that all that air goes down into the pipes themselves and out that way. The fourth characteristic that we wanted to have, if you're playing a mouth-blown set of pipes like the Highland pipes are, we need the bag to be able to help us control the moisture from our breath, right? The breath that you blow from your body is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's got a high humidity level. And that heat and humidity can definitely affect the cane reed and the chanter. And if you're still using wood cane reeds for your drones too, it can affect those as well. So we want to be able to control that a little bit. The fifth and sixth characteristics of a bag that we want are durability and flexibility. I think that kind of goes without saying, but we want the bag to last. And when we put the bags in our bagpipe case to take them somewhere, it needs to be flexible enough so that we can move the chanter around a little bit and fit it down into the case. So next, let's get into the bag itself. I want to show you the actual bag, and let's discuss what material the bag is made of, okay? This is my current set of Highland bagpipes, and what I'm going to do is start taking the pipes out so I can show you the actual bag. Now, historically, up until maybe, 25 or 30 years ago, bags were all made of leather, either cowhide or sheepskin, could be goat skin, really any skin would work. And the advantage to a leather bag is it has some weight to it, has some heft, has a little bit of structure, and yet still be flexible. But the big disadvantage with leather bags is that leather by its nature is porous because it's a skin and it had hair follicles and everything, right? And when the bagpipe manufacturer, when you create the bag, you have to stitch it together down along the bottom, as we said earlier. And those stitching points all are susceptible to air leakage as well. So if you were to take just a leather bag by itself, it would lose a lot of air through the skin itself and through these points of connection and stitching. So what you would have to do, and it's still, some people still use leather bags because it's classic, right? But to make it airtight, manufacturers would produce their own secret blends of what was called bagpipe seasoning. It was a can of, I'll just call it a goo, right? It was generally the consistency of maybe soft chapstick. Okay, and you would put it on the stovetop and heat it up slowly, and it would have a particular odor to it depending on the ingredients they used. So maybe some resin, a little bit of honey. It was kind of a secret recipe, right? But you would heat it up until it became liquefied. And then what we would do is remove all the drones and the pipes, the chanter, just like I'm doing right now, and we would put rubber corks in these stocks. And then we would pour that liquefied seasoning down into the bag. Man, the next 15, 20 minutes, you'd be working it in, kneading it into the bag, trying to get that liquid to all of the inside of the bag, okay? Now, it was a messy job. It was a pain in the patoot, but it would make the bag airtight, and it had the side benefit of these ingredients were such that it would tend to absorb moisture as well from your breath. So it really served two opposing purposes, airtightness and yet absorbing moisture, okay? Since then, we have more kind of space-age materials and some high-tech materials. And even though I'm a traditionalist for most things Scottish, when it comes to bagpipes, I am all in favor of anything that makes the maintenance of the bagpipe easier as long as it doesn't compromise the sound, okay? So, I've taken the stocks out here, and what you're seeing here is actually the bag cover. This one is made of black velvet-like corduroy, and it helps me kind of grip it when I'm playing. In the old days, so this one has Velcro at the back, but in the old days, this was just open. And a bag cover is simply decorative. There's no function other than decoration. You can make a bagpipe cover in the tartan of your kilt. It could be black, it could be blue, it could be, red, whatever you want there. Some pipers just choose to play the pipes without a bag cover, but I think a nice bag cover, just makes the whole thing appear a little bit nicer, especially if you're using this kind of bag. So this is called a Canmore bag. It's made of basically of Gore-Tex. And by Gore-Tex, it means it's airtight. It's very lightweight, it's very flexible, and it's very durable. Some people don't like it this light. They like the heft, as I say, of a leather bag. It's very durable, it's very low maintenance. But the problem with this is so even though it's very airtight and very durable and all of that, now we've introduced another challenge. And it's so airtight and since we're not putting seasoning down in the bag, which you don't want to do, well, now you're trapping the moisture from your breath into this bag, okay? And so now we have to deal with that. So when these started coming on the scene about, 30 years ago, it led to some new inventions, and that is water moisture control devices that we now have to put down inside of the bag to help control that moisture. Now, in this particular bag that I have a bag of desiccant down in there to help absorb the moisture because I don't play the Highland pipes as much as I used to. But you also have to be able to get down inside the bag, which we didn't do with the leather ones. And so now these all have zippers, and these called a T-zip. These are like scuba diver zippers. They're really hard to open up, but now you can get down inside of it and do what you need to. All different kinds of water traps out there available, and I don't really have a strong recommendation on any of them. I use a system in here that's effective for me as little as I play the Highland pipes now. But if you're in a pipe band and playing a whole lot, you need a really robust water trap system. This zipper is airtight, okay? And so there you go, there's a Canmore bag. Now there's a third option out there for material, and it's called a hybrid bag. It's essentially a Gore-Tex bag with a leather outside. Okay, these are really cool. They still have to have the zipper because you still have to work with water control devices down inside. But they have the heft and the feel of a leather bag too. So those are really nice. I'll talk about one other aspect of the bag that we're going to get into in more detail when we talk about the drones and the chanters. But that's these stocks. These are made of African blackwood, same material as the drones. And back here at the base of them, there's a notch that's lathed into the stock. And so historically with the leather pipes, these are wrapped with cord very tightly, very strong cord. Pull them as tightly as you can to get it down into that notch to help make it airtight. And then with the seasoning that comes behind it, you would try to seal up any air leakage. Now, the really cool thing with these Canmore bags or any Gore-Tex bags is they have built into it a rubber gasket. So now all you have to do is take your stock, open up the bag, put it up through that opening and push it until it kind of locks in place. And that's for the blowpipe and all three of the drones. It's a brilliant system. Then we wrap it with electrical tape just to cut off any possible leakage. Can't really do that with the chanter hole because the seam is coming up here. So this one's tied in and then wrapped as well. The last thing I'll mention, once you have all of this together, every so often, maybe once every 6 months or a year, a piper should put rubber corks in all of these except for the blowpipe, stick the blowpipe in here and inflate the bag until it's nice and taut. And it should remain taut for at least 2 hours, to make sure that you don't have any significant air leakage going on. Okay, that's how we test it for air tightness. The other thing that does is also tests the valve in your blowpipe. And in the next video, we're going to talk about the blowpipe. And for bellows pipes, we'll talk about the bellows too. I hope you'll come back for that. I hope you enjoyed this video. There's probably more than you wanted to know about the bag, but feel free to comment or leave questions. I'll be sure to answer them. And if you like this, man, please hit the like button and subscribe, and I appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you have a great day.